Hey guys, we're here to discuss Run Lola Run. This is a German film. It was made in 1998. It was written, directed by Tom Tykwer, and this film's really it really uses time as a big plot. You can actually it actually gives you the characters' motives very quickly in the opening scenes, and at first because you'd heard about this film before, you hadn't seen it.
Yeah, I just heard that it was short and it was
Yeah.
time relevant.
Yeah.
Like everything happens, like the 80 minutes that is the movie is the 80
Yeah.
minutes of the movie, which
Uh-huh.
we kind of quickly found out it
Not
it is
exactly that.
Yeah,
'Cause
it's a
there's
Groundhog
three-
Day film.
Yeah, there's three different
Iterations.
stories, iterations.
Yeah, she has to get to a deal gone wrong to provide her
Yeah.
boyfriend money in 20 minutes, and we get to see it 3 times,
Mhm.
which I thought it was 80 minutes of her running essentially, and then the first 20 minutes go by and she's shot, and so I was like, what are we doing now? And I'm super excited to find out it's a Looper movie.
It was it certainly, the way it gives you the characters' motives immediately, like Manny being in the train, losing all that money, and then because the movie starts out with Manny in the phone booth calling his girlfriend, correct?
Lola.
And Lola, and at first you kind of just you're like, who are these two people talking? And then shortly you find out it's her boyfriend and whatnot. But then it immediately becomes a race against time, and I think we were timing. Once we got to the third act, we were timing exactly how long it was, and they were all
to
roughly
see if it
20
was accurate.
minutes.
And it was a perfect 20 minutes. But so Manny says, if you're not here in 20 minutes, I'm going to rob this grocery store.
Yeah, and he leaves the bag of money on the train.
Yeah,
And a homeless man takes it, which that's kind of like a catalyst to what we see happens later in the movie. But basically, so Lola figures out that her boyfriend's in fatal danger, and if he doesn't
show up with
get
100
the money,
marks,
then he's
dead.
Yeah, and so immediately she runs down the stairs, and that's where this happened actually before they showed the Run Lola Run.
Let's just back up and say the editing is so 90s and so wacky. Like you start with this weird slow motion, like it's capturing random people in a crowd, and it's talking about like time and like the passages we see people in, like these short glimpses of people, which it goes on with these. One thing I maybe have an issue with is they didn't resolve a lot of the weird cuts, which I guess it's supposed to be to coin a phrase, I guess, from a movie, or the butterfly effect. Like it shows, that guy who asked her if she wants to buy a bike, he gets in a wreck and dies, and then like in another iteration he talks to a woman and then ends up homeless.
It really harps on how the effect of just one small change in time can have an adverse effect on someone's life. Like that old lady she kept bumping into each 3 times. Like one time it showed her winning the lottery, one time it showed her living her life out like the normal way, I guess she would, because she was like giving away books or something. And it really harps on that. But something I wanted to talk about was the animations that they had. Because I researched the movie a little bit, and they had those animations when she was running down the stairs each time. They actually didn't want her to fall down those stairs, right?
Oh,
so that's why they would, and it kind of added to like the intense style of the movie.
Okay, so that's interesting, because we talked a lot about that. Like, they definitely hired somebody for their like running aesthetics, and there's so much of that.
So this whole first take she has almost of her running through it, it actually ends in her dying. She was trying to. Did she get the money in the end of the first one?
Let's go step by step, because there's like 3 real big things we see.
Mm-hmm.
So she runs down the steps. That something happens later in that. She almost gets hit by somebody she actually knows.
It's
who's a business partner.
Mr. Meyer.
Meyer, is a business partner with her dad. I think we find out later. And then she goes to her dad's, where he is in a a cheating relationship. He's in a bank, but he's planning on leaving his wife for a new lady, and then nearly gets hit by an ambulance, and people are crossing with glass, and then she ends up with Manny.
In the first in the first one, her father says she's gonna disown her, and this is something that we never really were able to.
Oh, you want to get to that theory that we had?
That theory.
Yeah.
So
he says he could have never had her as a freak like her as a daughter, and disowns his family to be with this other woman, and then I think in the second iteration you find out that the woman has a baby who's not his.
Yeah.
Or, because he said, your mother, I could have never had you, so your mother had a baby with somebody else. Then you find out he's in the same situation, but I kind of came up with a theory that maybe, and I always have stupid, crazy ideas, but I almost want to think, because of all this time looping, maybe Lola is that baby in that woman's belly, because it's I don't know, it's just a funny, repeat that he would leave his wife for the same situation that he seems to be in with her.
Theory to have on it, which it's also what I was going to relate it to. We really we aren't 100% sure if in the different time loops that they are 100%
aware.
Yeah, aware, cognitive that what happened before. I kind of think they are, because the way she treats her dad in the second time loop.
It's a lot faster. I think there's an awareness left, but it's subconscious. Because there's a couple shots as you go on, some of the random encounters and stuff, they have a little bit of a squint. The security guard's a big one for it, especially at the end. They close on his face, and he's you can tell he's this woman just held me at gunpoint last time, even though it's a different situation.
All right, sorry, I knocked you back off track. But
you're good.
Basically, after the first iteration, or the first thing takes action.
So she gets there late. Manny is going to shoot the store up,
and then
they end up surrounded by cops, and she gets shot.
Yeah.
And then there's this repeat that happens between the first and second, and the second and third iteration where she's in bed with Manny,
and they're kind of talking about their relationship and things going on. This is where we find out that their relationship was kind of on the fence line, all ready to go, and then. Right after that, you get kind of a super intense scene where she's saying, "I'm not ready to go. I'm not ready to go," and you get taken back right to where the phone hits the base.
Another wild little editing moment.
And then you get the just so I can say, the music through this movie is pretty intense the whole time, which is real 90s techno for the car, like European.
And we do get a refrain, kind of almost like a theme track. That is in English, and it happens at the beginning of every iteration of her running. We end up with a lot of shots of her running, and an English song, which I don't know if that sometimes you'll get a German song in an American movie, but I don't know what reasoning there is for having the English song, whether it's just the director likes it or it's relative in some sort of way. It surprised me though. It made me think how often. What's the difference between hearing a foreign song in an American movie versus an American song anywhere else? Because I feel we have a lot of output in artistry, between Hollywood and the music industry.
So in this second playthrough or series of events that would happen, Lola decides to go straight to the bank, and her father, she takes the whole series of events a lot differently, and she goes in to speak to her dad, and insults the woman a lot more aggressive, and he just tells her to get out. At that point, she decides to take the security guard's gun and hold up the bank. That was probably the most intense part of the movie, I thought.
Oh yeah. Well, tension-wise for sure, yeah.
And then so she gets out with the money, and this time, probably the fatal factor of this whole scene of events was letting that ambulance run through the glass.
Yeah.
And we see that shortly after, because she also runs by the homeless man again for the second time.
She runs by the homeless man, and then she's running with the ambulance, yelling at it to pick her up and give her a ride, so they're distracted. End up hitting Manny.
And just so we clear this, Mr. Meyer hits the gang guys again, and then it causes a different series of events for him, or basically the same series of events for him.
For him, more or less. The third time she skips completely.
So this ambulance, she stops Manny from going into the grocery store to rob it, and we're like, oh, is everything gonna fold up here? You know,
Yeah, is this
I was
good?
kind of like, I know it's not gonna happen because 3 is usually but.
We still have a little bit of movie left.
There was only about 30 seconds for me to make that decision.
Right.
And then we see him get hit by the ambulance, and that was, that was kind of, you didn't really know, as a viewer, you didn't know what was going to happen because the first time Lola died.
Yeah.
So we were making inferences
like,
on
this is
going to be Manny's part of the story now, but Lola's time restarts again, and she does everything the same, but a bit more carefully now. Like in the running down the stairs, you see she jumps the dog.
Yeah, because the guy tripped her the second time around.
Yeah, and she doesn't skip the bank that time. She goes.
I think she asked Mr. Manny for a ride.
No, because she doesn't make it to the. She stops Manny Mr. Meyer from crashing into the gangsters, and then.
So he's good to go to her dad because he's meeting her dad.
He grabs her dad,
pulls off.
Yeah, pulls off, ruins her whole plan. So then she decides to go to the casino and put all her money on this. And this kind of gives you like she seems psychic almost.
There's a few things, and it kind of goes into my little theory of maybe she's, I don't know, it's not a fair theory because I use it on half the movies, like maybe she's not real at all or something. Because she kind of knows what to bet every time and it works for her. And then skipping forward a little bit, we mentioned it a little bit already, but the ambulance that's caused Mandy to die now hits who hits Mr. Meyer?
Okay, so this is something I saw I figured out in the research of the movie. You know those weird looks that the security guard would give her? Because that wasn't Mr. Meyer in there. That was the security guard.
It was the security guard?
He was having heart problems.
Oh.
So that's why whenever, after the whole casino thing happens, she gets in the ambulance and it's like that's where the psychic thing almost,
she grabs his hand and he comes back to life.
Yeah, it was real weird.
So there's like all these she's like almost a magical being in some of the like subtext. And it confuses me a lot.
So the final time is the time that they inevitably get the money to the gangsters, but it happens in a different way because Manny confronts the homeless man.
She says no to the bike guy super abruptly this time, so he's got nothing to do. So now he goes to like a little bar stand and sells the bike to the homeless guy, which changes all of the events to where Manny sees the homeless guy going by, catches him, takes the money. Let's get through plot because let's talk filmmaking.
Yeah.
And then Lola meets up at the time that Manny's talking to the bad guy, basically, and he's like, "We're good to go." And now she's got 100,000 marks in her pocket, and it ends just with a smile.
It ends kind of in a happily ever after.
Kind of, but I don't know. I think back to her talking about breaking up with Manny and making a decision, and it's kind of vague. Like, you don't know, she might just leave Manny and have her 100,000 marks.
It could end like that, but it could end like that because it kind of gives the viewer the decision to make.
Well, the characters are so surface level. Like, you don't learn enough about any of these characters.
All you have is their motives. All you have is their motives. So, with all the music that goes on in that movie, the thing that I was not really satisfied with, but it definitely gave me some intensity at the end of the movie was whenever she sees Manny right there at the end and they both have the money and they both completed their thing and the music just cuts. I think this is like the longest silent part of the movie they have.
Sure.
How'd that make you feel?
I guess now that you say that, I do recognize the silence, and obviously there is the piece that happens there. But I didn't consider the listening aspect of it. I guess I was just wrapped up in what happens next. But I'll segue.
The silence definitely
is
makes
a big deal.
The viewer feel like that. I'd say,
yeah. Well, we'll use that to segue into just the editing of this movie in general, because music is a big component. Man, it's just so 90s with the silly. There's lots of cross-cutting. There's like 3 situations. I don't know if they're supposed to mean anything. They mostly just annoyed me about her screaming and breaking glass. It's borderline Looney Tunes in style, and then it's just effectiveness, speed. It reminds me of the quirky kind of stuff like Train Spotting. The 90s was just a different time, man, for filmmaking. I love a 90-minute movie, and not to repeat the 90s 100 times, but just a quick movie like this I love. I feel like we don't get them anymore. Everything's like an hour and 45 minutes at least. Yeah. And it's just punch, punch, punch. Everything is shot, reverse shot.
Yeah, I think that's something we can harp on because the way the shots are taken and how fast they are. I think there's over 1,500 shots in this movie.
Is there?
Yeah, and it's
a
it's a 90-minute movie. You know, like I feel like that wouldn't sound as bad for like maybe a 3-hour movie, 3.5-hour movie, but.
And usually the kind of film I'm into is like a open room play style, just two people talking, no cuts. This thing is like ADHD. Movie.
Borderline epileptic.
Especially with the future people, like oh, this person, look at what they do. It's like a flash camera shot, and it does it like 10 times to you, and you're like, oh, and then back to the plot, and oh man, it's just bang, bang, bang the whole time, which is really fun. Stylistically, it's not the kind of movie I like, but the uniqueness is super interesting. There's some cool color correction stuff that goes on in those shots that are really aggressive. It's just a funny time for movie. I don't know if that's the production of home video means we need to make something really bright that catches people's eyes because they're going to be on the couches this time and not in a theater paying attention. But it's, everything is bare bones as far as treating you, like, I guess, camera skill. There's, like, not a lot of camera skill. It's all the editing, I feel like. Yeah,
like,
the editing of this movie.
The editing is really what intrigues a viewer, I'd say.
For sure.
Yeah, and the free will and how determined the individuals are to, because they kind of unlock their free will, as you can see, especially Lola. Yeah. But,
man, that's a good movie. That's something we don't get anymore. There's actually a remake. I just saw a trailer, I think the night before we watched this movie. There's a remake coming out, and first of all, I'm expecting it to be 2 hours long, and then secondly, I think it might explain everything, but this movie doesn't give you anything. Yeah. Like, it doesn't explain a word to you about what's happening. You're just there to view it and take what you can from it. And I love that. I don't need movies to tell me and hold my hand. Like, just let it, wash over you and let it tell you what you want it to tell you, I guess. Yeah.
Well, overall, it was definitely an intriguing ride, and
ride's a good way to put it, for sure.
So, I think that's about it for this week. But I want to thank you all for tuning into our video.
Yeah, thanks for the time.